Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, perhaps, wherever you are. A very, very warm welcome to Getting It Done with Gratitude. This month, we have really been talking about the science behind gratitude, how it really functions from our brain and our emotions, because we wanted you to have a perspective of gratitude that wasn't only about thank you or expressing, the basics. We wanted you to have a understanding, at least a glimpse into the real, let's call it the real meat, the real juice behind gratitude. And that it is built on empirical evidence and it does do what it says it does. So today we're going to be diving into the topic around emotional intelligence, something that I really, really love. But I love all things that help me to understand humans better as well. But before we dive into that, let me introduce myself and my co host. For those of you who don't know us as yet, I really feel that we have quite a family growing here. So most of you might know us, but for the person that's just heard of it and joined us, I'm Karen Williams Thompson. I'm a life and business strategist, and I work with women and help them to say yes to themselves. Research has shown me that women often put everyone else and everything else before them, so they tend to settle. Hence, my program YESS, you escape settling. So, and I do that by really just helping you unblock what's getting in your way. What are the stories you've been holding on to that have told you this is not for you, you can't do it, you can't pursue that dream, it's too big. And then we get into planning and making it a reality. So, in a nutshell, that's what I do. I really help women say yes to themselves and create the strategy that's going to allow them to successfully live the lives that they have imagined and they have desired for themselves. And I get to do this every week with my friend Shelly Ann Edwards. Shelly, welcome this morning.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Karen. Good morning, everyone. Those of you who are looking at the live, thank you so much for being here. And those of you who are looking at the recording, we appreciate you very much and look forward to hearing from you. How are the programs working for you? What are the topics? If there's anything you want us to talk about specifically with gratitude, then please feel free send us a message. You can find us on LinkedIn, on Facebook. Even, the program is streamed on YouTube, so you can find us there too. And we'll really love to hear from you on that. And a little bit about me and what I do. I am a habit coach and gratitude guide. And what I do is to help ambitious professionals get to where they want to be without the burnout and without the distress. And we do this by activating the gratitude strategy and working on habits. And what that means is basically, the habits are what keep us moving forward. Habits are actions that we don't necessarily think of every day because we're actually in a system of repetition, and that is what really keeps us going when all the other stressors, come around in the world. And when you're ambitious and you're on a mission to change the world, sometimes all you think about is the next step, all you think about is what you're supposed to be doing, and you forget that human beings are multifaceted. And so we need different aspects of ourselves to be balanced in order to really get to our destinations in one piece and happy and contented. So that's what I help my clients figure out. What are their key habits? What are the things that they can work on? And I give them the accountability to really get it done. And of course, well, yes, we get it done with gratitude, which brings us to this program and what we're doing today. And emotional intelligence is actually a key part of all that both Karen and I just described. So, working with our clients, we, excuse me, we help them cultivate the emotional intelligence. And I guess we could begin with a definition. And when you really can't talk emotional intelligence without mentioning Daniel Goleman, right? He is. He is like the emotional intelligence guy. Wrote a book about it and everything. So let's work with, um I guess a review of his definition of emotional intelligence. Now, he identifies five aspects of emotional intelligence: self-awareness, which is knowing one's emotions, strengths, weaknesses, and values, and recognizing their importance on others; self-regulation,
Mhm.
which is regulating or directing one's disruptive emotions and being aware of their impact on others; social skills, which deals with building positive relationships and understanding ourselves and others; empathy, which is considering other people's feelings and guiding your interactions based on this understanding; and then self motivation, finding intrinsic motivation to fulfill goals and find true meaningfulness in life. And as I was reading that, I just kept thinking gratitude, gratitude, It's like it's a parallel. Gratitude kind of works hand in hand with all of these things with emotional intelligence.
Mhm. And that's it in a nutshell, right there. Emotional intelligence and gratitude are indeed interconnected. They actually reinforce all of the positive aspects in us as individuals. So practicing gratitude enhances the our emotional intelligence. It helps, as you said, to promote self-awareness. And when you are aware of yourself, just think about it. When you are aware, we were talking about this just before we started, where we're having a heat wave here in the Caribbean, believe it or not. And every evening we were saying we come in and we're so exhausted and tired. And the first thing we do is think, wait a minute, why am I this tired? Because we're not connecting, we're not being self-aware in that moment. That is the heat of the day that's really
Mm.
drained all of our energy. And then sometime a little bit later, we think, oh yeah, it's the heat wave. So this self-awareness. And then it's being positive in that. Because I was saying to Shelley this morning, some days I am struggling a little bit with the gratitude with this heat wave, because let me tell you, it has been hot day
Mm.
and night. So self-awareness and emotional intelligence involve recognizing and understanding your own emotions. So gratitude helps you to be aware of the positive emotions and the experiences that you have in your life, and it helps you to be present and helps you to really relate and identify to them. So by practicing gratitude, you actually become more attuned to the emotions that are associated with gratitude, things like contentment, things like happiness, and that really helps you. So that awareness helps you to stay in that state more. And Shelley mentioned some other things there, like self-regulation. And if you think about it, things like being self-aware, it's like a step, it's like a progression. Then you can self-regulate better, wouldn't you say?
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. And I was just thinking that, emotional intelligence is something that we talk about in terms of leadership quite a lot,
Mm-hmm.
because a leader's ability to um activate and express many of these things, so self-awareness, self-regulation, social skill, empathy, and self-motivation, is at the foundation of being a great leader, because we're dealing with other human beings, and emotional intelligence is kind of the core of social skills, because in interacting with other human beings, we need to be aware of ourselves and aware of them, and how the interaction between ourselves and them, how that works. And so that is really where the emotional intelligence sort of finds its value in what we do. So when we talk emotional intelligence, it's not just about, it's not just another thing to say, hey, um this is something nice to know about. It is actually very practical in the workplace, certainly with leadership, it's practical at home, it's practical everywhere because it deals with humans and human interaction. And that's what, when we think about, that value of gratitude and the impact of gratitude, we've been looking at how gratitude impacts everything. And if you match up, like side by side, okay, these are the five um categories of emotional intelligence. How does that
Mm-hmm.
work with gratitude, and how does gratitude connect? We can think, okay, for self-awareness, how does gratitude influence that? um it increases our positive emotions. It allows us to notice. Remember, the practice of gratitude is stepping out of the drama, stepping out of whatever is happening around, to just notice what
It is
exists.
this. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Yeah.
brings the
Mm-hmm.
self-awareness. And then there's the
Yes. Mm-hmm.
self-regulation. You wanted to, I gosh, I know, I get excited.
No, no, you were going good. I was really just agreeing with you because I was waiting until you were finished. So you continue.
Yeah. So I'm going through the five, right? So this is self-regulation, the second one. Self-regulation, as we said, has to do with, regulating and, recognizing and regulating disruptive emotions. So we're all human, things happen, we feel anger, we feel different things, but how do we address those situations? The jealousy comes up, and these emotions can lead to negative experiences. How does gratitude help with that? Reframing what the immediate reaction is. So because gratitude allows us to step out and, take a look at what is, it's in its entirety, we're able to look at a situation and see things from multiple perspectives,
Mm-hmm.
and recognize the situation for what's actually going on, and see some positive aspects of it that we can be grateful for, even as we address the issues. And especially when, let's say we're angry, and we're looking at what the other person is doing and everything out there. Gratitude and the pause allows us to look at what's in here as well, which is the basis of the self-regulation. And
Yeah.
then social skill, um, when we recognize what we're grateful for in relationships, we tend to be more proactive and more understanding in those relationships. And so we build and maintain better relationships. Then we have empathy. And let's just check in. Empathy has to do with considering other
Be-
people's feelings.
Before
Mhm.
you move on to empathy, I wanted to just also interject here and say, like, with these social skills, it's all about communication. And that's just
Yeah.
because it's one of my burning passions is how we actually speak to ourselves. So
Ah, yes.
how you speak to yourself. So emotional intelligence speaks to this. How you speak to yourself, whether you are being very judgmental and harsh for yourself. And that is where gratitude then that's where they mirror each other so beautifully because by
Yeah.
practicing gratitude and adding how you speak to yourself, you can have that shift. You can have that mindset, that whoops, that flip of the conversations where instead of judging yourself to talk about all that you don't have, all that you haven't done, all that you haven't achieved, you are now able to focus on what you have done what you have accomplished. Because sometimes when we take that same pause that you mentioned, and we take that pause to really just to reflect and even to write it out, we actually
Mhm.
see that there's so much that we have achieved. And I know this has happened to me where I've been in a space and I've wanted to be achieving things, and I've thought to myself, well, you're not getting these things done. What's going on? And I too have been called out and said, well, is it really true that you haven't really been? As recent as last week, my coach called me out 4 times. So, and it was because I was really getting caught up in that net of I was not getting enough done and everything. And then, she just pointed out, but haven't you been doing this? I've been seeing you do that and I've been seeing this. And I was like, oh, sure, yeah, I have been doing all of those things. So it was in that moment then of being called out, of being grateful that you are
Yeah.
able then to change the language. And I think that part of the social skills of emotional intelligence is really to help us to shift the language that we use when we are speaking about ourselves. Allows us also to acknowledge others and what they are doing. You spoke just now about that competitive side, that looking at what others are doing. So
Mm-hmm.
emotional intelligence helps us not to really look at what everyone else is doing and compare ourselves to them, but to look at ourselves and to see, okay, yesterday I did two, today I did three. Whoopee, it's getting better. So it's about having that shift. It's about staying present. It's about building those stronger relationships. But it begins with us. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. Please. Yes, I do. Like I said, I get excited and I keep going forward. I have to remind myself that um and these are moments where, like, in a moment like this, you pause and you remind yourself, hey, social interaction, sharing with others, understanding how other people feel. I think it's as practical as that. And sometimes we expect it to be in this huge and significantly powerful kind of way, and you
Mhm,
expect these sparks and lights and all those things, but it's in the one to one everyday moments when you get to pause and say, hey, I'm grateful for this conversation, I'm
mhm,
grateful for what's happening here, let me just step back. And these are what we call the small moments that add up and make up and build the habits that get us to where we want to be. So that the gratitude allows for that awareness. And I feel like it's so significant that. And then the next point I was going on to was the empathy,
empathy.
which would be, fostering that understanding that other people have feelings too. And even when we have the best intentions, how other people react, we don't necessarily have control over how other people react. We do try to influence and try to make people feel better and so on, but we don't have control over how other people react because everyone reacts from their personal perspective. Whatever is happening with them on the inside, whatever experiences they have had, whatever, history they come to the situation with
Mhm,
influences the situation and how they react in the situation. And so um they I think there's a an equation in psychology. I believe it was Kurt Lewin who said behavior equal person plus situation. So equals person plus situation. And that pretty much means that we react based on situations, and these
yeah,
situations and reactions are influenced by our history and so on. So we don't know what someone is coming with. Even if we've been around the person for a long time, we're
truthful.
not inside their head, so we don't know what's happening and the kind of conversations they're having with their self with themselves. And so when we enter a situation as it relates to the emotional intelligence and the gratitude, we pause and we recognize that, hey, this person has their own feelings, their own behavior, they are part of this interaction, and understanding what they're going through is going to help me with the situation.
Mhm, mhm,
And it really allows us to kind of, step back and pause. And I remember there was in working with my one of my daughters, she had assignments to do and she asked me to help. And I thought, yeah, I could help. I could do an hour and a half. Let's sit down and do this. And 2 hours later, I'm thinking, why are we still doing this? What, how is it that we're not finished with this yet? And and so the emotions are building in me and I'm beginning to get a little bit frustrated. And because I have this habit of gratitude, and that allows me to be aware of what I'm doing, I told her, I said, okay, sweetie, give me a minute. I am so grateful that I'm getting to help my daughter with her homework right now. I said that to myself like about 5 times. And, I'm grateful that we're able to go through and she's getting it. I just need to, keep at it a little bit longer. She's getting it and she's doing so well. Um, and for her, it's helpful that I'm there supporting her rather than saying, ah, child, do it on your own. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you're old enough, you could figure it out yourself. You don't need me. Um, so what I ended up doing was telling her, I said, listen, I can't do every point in the assignment with you step by step. I'm not telling you what to do. So tell me what you are doing and we will see how it's going. So the moment of stepping back and the gratitude helped me step out of it, recognize what's happening with me, regulate that, adjust my behavior in the relationship and the situation right then and there, and
Mm-hmm.
recognize that she is also going through some stuff. She's worried about her assignment. She's concerned about getting a good grade. She doesn't feel like what she is doing is working. And so she needs the reminder that, hey, you got this.
Yeah.
And that's where the empathy comes in. And and I feel like I experience that with my kids, and this is something that happens with parenting. So, you know, expressing gratitude there really is important. And in the workplace as well, there's actually, when I went searching, I found an article, Emotional Intelligence and Leadership. Excuse me, emotional intelligence in the workplace, emotional intelligence and gratitude, how you can use this in the workplace. And because these, I guess, these practices impact human beings. And so wherever human beings are, these
Mhm.
practices are going to be impactful and important to address.
Yes. And I think I wanted to say, when you were talking just now about stepping out and having to step back when you were working with the girls, in that moment, what I heard was it gave you clarity as well. It gave you
Yes.
clarity to actually look, and that's such a big thing with us as well. So having the clarity allowed you then to step back in, refocused. It allowed you then to really, to say to her, tell me how you want to go forward. Tell me, and let us then work from there. So that gap, that stepping back, is such a useful practice to have. That when you're feeling things beginning to get a bit much, when the overwhelm is creeping in, the frustration or the anxiety, tell yourself it's okay to step back for a minute.
Hmm. Hmm.
Practice the gratitude. Implement the gratitude. Say it out loud, or if you have to, you say it in your head, but you say it. And then when you are able to step back in, then you have that with so much more clarity. And again, it speaks to the resilience. It speaks to how
Oh,
emotional
yes.
intelligence helps us to bounce back from setbacks. It helps us to adapt to challenging situations. And we talked about resilience and gratitude way early up. But resilience coupled now with the emotional intelligence is definitely a double win, because
Hmm.
being able to manage setbacks, being able to bounce back in a shorter time from challenges and setbacks is absolutely a win for you, because you
Hmm.
spend less time in negativity and toxicity.
Yeah.
You spend less time being focused on what isn't and what didn't, and more time on what is. And that is
Yeah.
really important. So
Yep.
the resilience and the gratitude, they all, there's no way to let's just say this, there's no way to separate them. They are totally, totally interwoven. And this
Exactly.
can
None
just boost,
whatsoever.
yeah, and this just boosts your ability to cope with adversity. And so,
Hmm.
because life is life, and things are going to come at you when you least expect them. And knowing that you have these tools, knowing that you have these, in your back pocket kind of thing, it strengthens you. It really, really does. I can attest to
Yeah, listen, we can both testify if we
that.
must set
Listen,
aside a day just for testimonies. Yes,
I'm
because
saying, I'm saying,
it's
girl.
it's a life thing,
Yes.
and it's not
Hmm.
something that you learn it once and then that's it. It's something that you have to practice, which is why I'm so interested in habits. It's something that you have to practice daily, and the more often you practice a habit, or you practice an action, is the more likely it will become a habit, which is
Hmm.
why I always remember that episode we did that triggered me, where I read this article that said, you don't have to practice gratitude every day. That's unreasonable. But here's the thing, if you really want it to become a habit, then you need to practice it as often as possible.
Yeah.
So it's not a matter of, yeah, like doing it every day. In fact, you do it multiple times a day, just in different
Yeah.
ways.
It's
and
true. Yeah.
so and so it's important. And when it comes to like resilience, the experts categorize that in like four areas as well. We have emotional resilience, psychological resilience, physical resilience, community resilience. I mean, it's really about, it's not just one thing, resilience. And so emotional intelligence, of course, assists with the emotional resilience, which is, your ability to bounce back and deal with your emotions, all the emotions that come up. And, we assume that the negative emotions are the ones that we need to pay attention to only, because if we're angry or we're sad, or, where we're feeling jealousy and so on, we manage these things. But we do have to manage the euphoria as well, the happy emotions, because they can also overtake our lives and cause us to stumble.
Mm.
We get into celebration mode, and we celebrate and we go all out to celebrate, and then how are we celebrating? Is it disruptive for what we want to do? And there's a lot, regulation is regulation. and
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
and that's something that I find quite, I guess, sobering, that when we look at these things, we do have to manage all of it, and not necessarily pick and choose. Oh, I'll manage this and I'll let this run. I'll manage that and I'll let this run. No, it's a complete awareness of what's going on.
Yeah. Don't pick
Yeah.
and choose the things that we like the best or that we find the
Yeah.
easiest. Kind of
No.
like we we got to do a whole package. So you have to.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. That's it.
There are a
Yeah.
couple of things before we wrap up this morning that I wanted to touch base on. It was something that you kept saying over and over this morning, and that is that we're dealing with humans. I think if we keep
Hmm.
that at the center of everything, there's that I don't know if you had this too, but when we were growing up, Granny would say treat others as you want them to treat you, or that was like the golden rule, right? Treat others as
Yeah.
you want them
Yeah.
to treat you. And if we actually bring that back to be in the forefront of our mind, and if we remember, as you're saying all the time, about humans, and that everything is coming down to how you interact with humans. But if you start with me and how I speak to myself and how I would want to be spoken to, how I want to be treated, if we start to use that as a guide, then we don't we understand. We can't say that we don't. We understand then what emotional intelligence is. And then if we
Hmm.
apply
Hmm.
the gratitude to it, then that just enhances it. It makes it stronger. And in making that stronger, you get to reduce stress. And that is something that causes so many different things in your life: illness, anxiety, everything could come on then from that. So
Yeah.
when you are being resilient, when you are remembering and you are just putting all of these things in place, you are actually then reducing your stress, because gratitude is then helping you to take your attention away from the negative, and it's helping you to focus on what is positive, while the emotional intelligence is equipping you with the how. So that's why the two of them is like the ingredients really necessary to make a really nice cake. And I'm going to hand over to you to wrap, Shelley. But I also wanted to say, in all of this, remember one thing too: personal growth, positive intelligence, and developing that and practicing gratitude every day, or as Shelley says, multiple times a day. You are going to grow as a person. And what is the best thing ever than continuous personal growth? It is just the
Absolutely.
pathway for continuous self improvement. And so, by nurturing these qualities, you become emotionally resilient. And that helps you
Absolutely.
show up every day,
Hmm.
every single day to be the best that you can be.
Yep. How do I follow that? How do I wrap up after that?
There was just so there was so much to say and to get into this
Oh,
morning's episode
yeah, and
with
and
positive
that's the
intelligence,
thing.
you know. But yeah,
When it comes to this, I feel like because when you spoke about clarity, and I'm going to be quick because we really should be closing off now. Um, Clarity, when people ask, we hear about clarity all the time, and when you're struggling and you hear that word clarity, you think, oh, okay, fine, clarity, what? But clarity really is being aware and seeing the various components and the various aspects of a situation.
yep,
And what helps you with that more than anything else? Emotional intelligence fueled by gratitude, because the two work
uh,
hand in hand.
yep.
And so I think so. Those of you who are listening, watching the replay, this is not a conversation that we can just have in 30 minutes. Um, I think we'd probably continue this a bit next week because there's so much more to unpack here, and especially some practical things that you can do. And certainly reach out to Karen, reach out to me if you need assistance in any of these areas, because the beauty of this is that you do not have to do it alone. Don't
Amen to
think
that.
that you have to do these things alone. I didn't do it alone. I am not currently doing it alone, and I don't expect to do it alone in the future. We need help, and we need to help each other. We need to support each other. So that's what I'm going to end on. We still have some stuff brewing, and I know we promised to tell you what's happening. We will tell you soon. But stuff is brewing because we really want to be there for you as much as possible, because emotionally intelligent, grateful people are happy, productive, and resilient, and we just make the world a better place.
Successful.
Yep. Yep. That's it. We just make the world a better place, and feeling that is important. So I think, yeah, we would continue, and I really recognize that we're few minutes over. So let's close it off today, but please join us next week. We're going to continue the conversation so that you can find out what you can do to really get it done with gratitude. All right. Take care. Have a good day, evening, night, morning. Enjoy the rest of it. Bye.
Bye.